The desert stretched out before Jonathan like a vast, unforgiving ocean of sand, its endless waves shimmering with the heat of the late afternoon sun. He staggered forward, every muscle aching, his throat parched beyond all reason. The sandstorm had torn through the group like a merciless predator, scattering them, claiming lives, and leaving behind a silence more profound than any sound could be. As the wind died down, Jonathan raised his hand to shield his eyes from the blinding glare. In the distance, a flicker of movement caught his attention, a figure, then two, gathered near the battered remains of their camp. Hope surged through him, raw and sudden. With a grunt, he pushed onward, boots sinking deep into the soft dunes. Lila's sharp eyes locked onto him first. "Jonathan," she called out, her voice cracking with a mix of relief and disbelief. Marcus stood beside her, adjusting his glasses with trembling hands, his usually composed demeanor shaken by the ordeal. Alina hurried forward, her medical kit strapped tightly to her back, ready to tend to whatever injuries he carried. They embraced in a tight, almost desperate group hug, the years of friendship and shared hardship binding them together in that moment. Tears mingled with sweat and dust on their faces as the stark reality of their losses settled over them. Some were gone friends and colleagues, swallowed by the sands or taken by the storm's fury. Their absence was a heavy presence, felt in every word left unspoken. Around a meager fire that struggled against the chill of the encroaching night, the survivors gathered. The flames flickered, casting dancing shadows on the rugged faces, illuminating eyes glazed with exhaustion but burning with determination. Stories were exchanged, fragments of memory and hope, laughter tinged with sorrow. Each name spoken was a tribute, a promise that their sacrifice would not be in vain. Jonathan's gaze drifted to the horizon where the sun dipped low, painting the sky in fiery hues. Time was no longer their ally. Moloch's mercenaries were closing in, their ruthless pursuit relentless. The urgency in the air was palpable, a silent drumbeat urging them onward. Spreading a worn map across a flat rock, Jonathan traced their path with a calloused finger, the lines and markings worn but still legible. Lila leaned in, her voice quiet but firm, as she pointed out hidden passes and potential shortcuts through the unforgiving terrain. Marcus, ever the skeptic, weighed in with cautious pragmatism, balancing hope with the cold logic that had often kept them alive. Alina moved among them like a guardian angel, her hands steady as she cleaned scrapes and bandaged bruises. Her presence was a balm, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, care and compassion endured. "We can't afford another mistake," Jonathan said, his voice low but resolute. "Moloch's getting closer every hour. We have to move fast, but smart." Lila nodded, her intense eyes reflecting the firelight. "The desert knows no mercy, but neither do we." Marcus adjusted his glasses, a flicker of respect crossing his features. "Let's hope your faith in legends is stronger than my doubt." The night deepened, wrapping the camp in its cold embrace. Yet within that small circle of light, a spark had been rekindled, the fierce, unyielding flame of hope and resolve. The road ahead was perilous, shadows lurking at every turn. But united by loss and driven by a shared purpose, Jonathan and his team prepared to face whatever the desert would throw at them next. As the stars began to pierce the velvet sky, Jonathan allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. The weight of grief pressed upon him, yes, but also a burgeoning clarity. This quest was no longer just about immortality or redemption. It was about honor, about carrying forward the legacy of those who had fallen, about proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit could endure. The wind whispered through the dunes, carrying with it the promise of dawn and the certainty of the endless chase. Jonathan Crane tightened his grip on the map, squared his shoulders, and looked to the horizon. The desert was vast, its secrets many, but so was his determination. And beneath the fading light of day, their journey was far from over. The desert night lay heavy around the camp, a vast expanse of inky black, pierced only by the cold, distant glimmer of stars. The fire's flames danced fitfully, casting flickering shadows across the faces gathered in a loose circle. The air was thick with the scent of dry earth, mingled faintly with the burnt resin of the firewood. Lila Hassan sat slightly apart from the others, her eyes reflecting the firelight, intense and thoughtful. The silence that had settled was not uncomfortable but charged, as if the desert itself held its breath, waiting. Jonathan Crane broke the quiet, his voice low and steady. "Lila, you've been holding something back. We all sense it. What is it about this oasis that you haven't told us?" Lila's gaze shifted to him, then downward to the sand at her feet. After a long moment, she exhaled softly, the sound barely audible over the whispering wind. "It's not just a place," she began, her voice a whisper that seemed to blend with the night around them. "For my family, the oasis is a living memory, a sacred trust passed down through generations." Marcus Finch leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "A tradition, more than that," Lila replied, pulling from her satchel a small, worn leather-bound journal, its edges frayed and softened by time. "These are the records of my ancestors' keepers of the desert's secrets." Opening the journal carefully, she revealed pages filled with delicate sketches and cryptic symbols, maps intertwined with poetic verses describing the oasis and its guardians. The moonlight lent a silver sheen to the fragile parchment, making the illustrations come alive in a way that mere words could not. Alina Cruz reached out, tracing a finger along the delicate ink lines. "These markings, they resemble the ones we found in the temple." Lila nodded. "They are warnings. Instructions. The oasis is protected by ancient customs that ensure its preservation. To disturb it recklessly is to invite disaster, not just for ourselves, but for the desert itself." Jonathan's eyes narrowed, the weight of her words settling deep into his bones. "You mean the oasis isn't just a place of myth or legend, but a sacred site?" "Exactly," Lila said, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "My family has guarded this knowledge, passing down the responsibility to respect the land and its secrets. The oasis is a gift and a burden." She paused, glancing skyward as a soft wind rustled the journal's pages. The scent of jasmine, faint and unexpected in the arid desert air, drifted past them. It was a fragrance tied to the oasis, a reminder of life thriving against all odds. "There are tales," Lila continued, "of those who sought to claim the oasis's power for themselves, only to be consumed by their greed. The desert does not forgive." Marcus's usual skepticism softened as he listened. "So this lost oasis is protected not just by sand and time, but by the very culture and spirit of the desert people." Lila's eyes met Jonathan's. "It's why you must understand more than maps and manuscripts. You must respect the oasis for what it is." Jonathan swallowed hard. The burden of his ambition suddenly felt heavier, mingling with a newfound reverence. "Thank you for trusting us with this, Lila." She smiled faintly, the tension easing from her shoulders. "We walked this desert not as conquerors, but as guests." The camp fell silent again. The fires crackled the only sound as each member of the team absorbed the gravity of Lila's confession. The desert stretched endlessly around them, a silent witness to the unfolding story, one of legacy, sacrifice, and the delicate balance between man and myth. As the night deepened, Jonathan found himself staring into the fire's heart, thoughts swirling like the sands outside. The path ahead was no longer just a race against time or a quest for glory. It was a sacred journey, one that demanded humility and courage in equal measure. The desert moon hung low, a pale guardian watching over them, its light casting the oasis's secret in a new glow-on of mystery, respect, and the eternal dance between human desire and the mysteries of the earth. Jonathan felt the weight of destiny settle within him, knowing that tomorrow's dawn would bring challenges unlike any before, but also the hope that together they could honor the ancient trust and perhaps, just perhaps, find a way to protect a secret older than time itself. And as the fire's glow waned, the desert whispered its age-old secrets, promising that the chase was far from over. The sun hung low in the vast sky, its fiery orb beginning its slow descent toward the horizon. The endless desert stretched out before them, a sea of undulating gold and ochre dunes carved by merciless winds. For days, Dr. Jonathan Crane and his team had endured the punishing heat, the blinding sandstorms, and the ever-present threat of deception that the desert wove like an invisible veil. Now, as the shadows lengthened and the air cooled with the promise of evening, something miraculous shimmered on the horizon. There, Laila Hassan's voice broke the silence, sharp and breathless. She pointed toward a glistening patch beyond the dunes, a green oasis rising like a mirage from the shimmering heat waves. Jonathan squinted against the sun, heart pounding as his eyes captured the unmistakable outline of palm trees swaying gently over a pool of water so clear it reflected the sky like a polished mirror. Marcus Finch adjusted his dusty glasses, skepticism flickering in his eyes, even as he allowed himself a small, awed smile. "By all accounts, that should be impossible," he murmured, "but there it is." Jonathan felt the weight of countless burdens lift in that moment, the relentless chase, the haunting memories of past failures, the gnawing doubt that had dogged him since the manuscript's discovery. The oasis was real, and it was within reach. The team crested the towering dune, the heat of the day giving way to the cooler embrace of twilight. The air was alive with the soft rustling of palm fronds, the gentle lap of water against the banks, and the distant call of desert birds returning to roost. For a fleeting heartbeat, the desert's harshness seemed to pause, replaced by the tranquil beauty of this hidden refuge. Lila's eyes narrowed, her voice low and steady. "We must not be fooled. The desert plays tricks, mirages, and illusions designed to protect this place. We need to stay focused." Jonathan nodded, feeling the familiar stirrings of obsession and determination. "We've come too far to let this slip away now, but we must move carefully. Malik won't be far behind." The shadows lengthened rapidly, and the once bright sky softened into hues of amber and rose. The oasis glimmered like a jewel, promising immortality and secrets beyond comprehension. Yet, beneath its serene surface lay danger-ancient traps, rival mercenaries, and the curse of time itself. As they prepared to descend toward the sanctuary, Jonathan's thoughts flickered to the sacrifices made, the comrades lost, and the legacy he hoped to carve from the sands. The desert was unforgiving, but within this moment lay the culmination of everything he had fought for. Steeling himself, he led the way forward, each step carrying the weight of hope and desperation. The oasis awaited, but so did the twilight hand, the truth that would forever change their lives. The chase was nearing its end, but the desert's final secret was yet to be revealed. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat as the first stars began to pierce the deepening sky. Somewhere beyond the shimmering palms, Moloch's shadow loomed, poised to strike. Underneath the desert moon, the ultimate test of courage and conviction was about to unfold. The desert sun was a relentless overseer, beating down on the expedition as the team set up camp amidst the endless dunes. Exhaustion clung to every member, but none more so than Jonathan Crane, whose sharp eyes scanned the horizon with an intensity born of both ambition and a growing sense of foreboding. Leela Hassan moved with practiced ease, her sharp wit and intimate knowledge of the desert guiding their tired steps. But the peace was fragile. Jonathan's unease had grown over the past days, an instinct sharpened by years of peril and betrayal in his field. As the team busied themselves with setting up tents and tending to equipment, a sudden commotion shattered the fragile calm. Dust erupted like a living thing, swirling violently as the unmistakable sound of gunfire cracked through the dry air. Shouts erupted urgent, panicked, cutting through the stillness. Jonathan's heart pounded as he pivoted toward the source. Through the haze of dust and heat, he saw the Mythic mercenaries, swift and ruthless, descending upon their camp like predators. The merciless desert had given way to a human threat far more dangerous. Leela, Jonathan's voice was a sharp command, but the mercenaries moved too quickly. In the chaos, Leela fought fiercely, her athletic form twisting and turning to evade capture. Her eyes intense and unyielding found Jonathan's for a fleeting moment, a silent message of resilience. But it was not enough. Two strong hands gripped her arms, yanking her backward. A cry escaped her lips, mingling with the roar of the wind and the mercenaries' harsh orders. Jonathan surged forward, but a mercenary blocked his path, gun raised in cold warning. He skidded to a halt, fury igniting inside as he watched Lila disappear into the dust-laden horizon. The camp fell into stunned silence once the attackers retreated, leaving only the bitter taste of loss and the acrid scent of gunpowder. Alina Cruz rushed to tend to the minor injuries sustained in the skirmish, her calm professionalism a steadying force amid the turmoil. Yet even her reassuring presence could not mask the mounting dread that settled over the group. That night, beneath a sky studded with indifferent stars, Jonathan gathered the remaining team around a small fire. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on their weary faces, mirroring the turmoil within. Plans were whispered urgently, voices low but charged with tension. "We can't let Moloch use her knowledge," Jonathan said, his voice firm despite the exhaustion. "Lila's survival depends on us acting quickly and smartly." Marcus Finch, ever the skeptic, frowned. "We're outnumbered and outgunned. Rushing in blindly is a death sentence." Leela's absence was a silent wound, a reminder of the stakes that no amount of scholarly debate could diminish. Elsewhere, in the rugged expanse of his desert camp, Malik sat with a cruel smile etched across his scarred face. His captive, Lila, stood defiant despite the harsh chains that bound her wrists. "You underestimate me, Hassan," Malik taunted, his voice a low growl. "Your knowledge will unlock the oasis. Together, we will control what no one else dares to touch." Lila met his gaze unwaveringly. "The desert protects its secrets. You'll find that some treasures demand a price you're unwilling to pay." Moloch's smile twisted. "Then you'll be the one paying it." Back at their camp, the team's resolve hardened. Jonathan's mind raced as he weighed their options. Time was slipping away, the sun inching toward the horizon, and with it, their window to reach the oasis before it vanished. Before dawn, Jonathan prepared himself for the mission that would test every skill and ounce of courage he possessed. The desert's cold breath greeted him as he stepped into the vast silence, the blood-red horizon a stark reminder of the peril ahead. He was alone now, burdened with the weight of rescue and survival. Every step forward was a step into the unknown, where enemies lurked and the desert itself seemed to conspire against him. Yet, beneath the desert moon, Jonathan Crane's determination burned brighter than ever. The chase was no longer just for immortality, was for the life of a trusted friend and the hope that some secrets were worth fighting for. As the night deepened, the desert whispered promises and warnings alike, its mirages blurring the line between hope and despair. Jonathan's journey into darkness had only just begun, and the ultimate test awaited beneath the fading light. The desert sun hung low, casting long, fiery streaks across the horizon as Dr. Jonathan Crane peered cautiously over the edge of a jagged rock formation. His breath came in measured, steady pulls, each exhale stirring the dry, powdery dust at his feet. Below, the mercenary camp sprawled like an ominous hive. Tents clustered among scattered boulders and guarded by menacing silhouettes pacing beneath fluttering flags. The air was thick with the metallic temps of anticipation and the relentless heat of the late afternoon. Jonathan's sharp eyes scanned every detail, the positioning of guards, the flicker of campfires, the muffled voices carried by the desert wind. His team, a small but capable group, lay crouched behind the rocky cover, muscles taut and hearts pounding in unison with the rising tension. Beside him, Leela Hassan's absence was a gnawing ache, fueling his resolve to act swiftly and decisively. "Positions," Jonathan whispered, his voice low yet firm. "Alina, Marcus, cover the eastern flank. Omar's men won't expect an assault from that direction. Leela's life depends on our precision." Alina Cruz nodded, her usual calm demeanor edged with fierce determination as she checked her medical kit one last time. Marcus Finch adjusted his glasses nervously, skepticism replaced by a resolute commitment to the mission. The desert was unforgiving, but so were they. The plan was simple in theory, but perilous in execution. A coordinated strike under the dying light of day to catch Moloch's mercenaries off guard. Intelligence from Rashid had been invaluable. He'd pinpointed the exact location where Lila was held captive, a reinforced tent near the center of the camp. Time was their enemy. The sun's descent signaled the coming disappearance of the oasis's protective illusion, and Moloch's wrath would only deepen. Jonathan's pulse quickened as he gave the silent signal. Like shadows, the team slipped from cover, moving with practiced stealth across the rocky terrain. The crunch of sand beneath boots was subdued but unyielding. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the enemy's lair. Suddenly, a sharp whistle sliced through the stillness, a guard's cry as a figure stumbled upon the intruders. Chaos erupted instantly. Gunfire cracked like thunder, echoing wildly against the canyon walls. Sand exploded into the air, shimmering in the last golden rays as bullets whistled past. Jonathan dropped low, returning fire with calculated precision. Through the haze of smoke and dust, Lila's figure emerged, bound but defiant, eyes blazing with unbroken spirit. Jonathan's heart surged. "Hold on, Lila," he muttered, weaving through the chaos, every muscle coiled for the fight ahead. Malik appeared next, a dark force amidst the turmoil, his scarred face twisted in rage and disbelief. "Jonathan, you think you can steal what's mine?" he snarled, drawing a pistol with deadly intent. Their confrontation was swift and brutal. Jonathan's mind raced as he parried blows and dodged shots, the desert wind whipping dust and grit into their faces. Around them, the camp dissolved into a maelstrom of shouted orders and clashing steel. Meanwhile, Marcus and Alina expertly covered their backs, tending to minor wounds and maintaining the fragile line between victory and disaster. The team moved as one, their bond forged in the crucible of shared danger. Minutes stretched like hours until, finally, Leela's bonds were cut. She sprang free, joining Jonathan in a desperate retreat through the maze of tents. Behind them, Omar barked orders, rallying Moloch's remaining mercenaries in pursuit. The fading sun painted the sky in blood-red hues, shadows lengthening with every heartbeat. The desert was no longer just a backdrop, was a living, breathing adversary, its shifting sands threatening to swallow them whole. But hope blazed fiercely in their chests. "Keep moving," Jonathan urged, voice hoarse but commanding. "We're almost clear." Their flight was a desperate dance of survival. Weaving between rocks and sand dunes, hearts hammering against ribs like tribal drums. The oasis's elusive promise beckoned beyond the horizon, fragile beacon of salvation and sacrifice. As the camp faded into the distance, Jonathan glanced back once, meeting Moloch's fierce gaze. The war was far from over, but for now, they had won a crucial victory. Leela was safe, and with her, the key to the desert's deepest secrets, yet beneath the exhilaration lay a shadow of foreboding. Moloch's vendetta would burn hotter, his tactics more ruthless, and the desert, with its mirages and mysteries, awaited their next move. Jonathan's jaw tightened, resolve hardening like desert stone. This was no longer just a race to the oasis, it was a battle for the soul of the desert itself, and he would not fail. The desert moon would soon rise, casting its pale light over a landscape where legends lived and died, where the line between myth and reality blurred beneath the endless chase. Jonathan's eyes burned with fierce determination, a silent vow echoing in the night. Whatever the cost, he would protect the oasis's secret and those he cared for to the very end. But as shadows lengthened and the night deepened, one question lingered in the cool desert air. How far was he willing to go when the ultimate sacrifice was demanded?